right. Speaking of fun, our fun news segment, trying stuff. And on this segment, we're getting into alcohol and libations and all that stuff we have from our friends here in Ontario, Levenswater Gin. So this is a Levenswater sent to us. My friend Paul Allenby sent it to us. There it is.
Yeah.
It is a bespoke Ontario-made gin, and as you and I talked off mic, there's lots of amazing gins. I'm sure lots made in Nova Scotia. We happen to be trying this one, and we're mixing it. We're mixing it today with Fitch Leedes Tonic Water, which comes in all kinds of different flavors. So a bespoke tonic water. So why don't we give it now?
It's from South Africa.
It's from South Africa, so global trade. So why don't we crack one open? Now, we're recording this later in the day, so we're not doing morning drinking here. Let's just for the listeners, if they're wondering.
Let's hear this. There we go.
Oh, there we go. A little bit of that. Now, I've got my gin, so I'm going to do a bit of a bartender pour here.
Yes. Yeah, you like my bartender look, Michael, for today?
You're well dressed for our occasion. There, I did a bit of a bartender pour, which is kind of fun. And by the way, for those listening on the podcast, this is all on our YouTube channel, as is our conversation. So be sure and tune into that. All right. Well, let's give Levenswater a taste. Cheers.
Cheers. Yes.
I have to admit, I never liked gin. I grew up, I never liked gin.
Gin?
I didn't like gin. I did not like gin until these gins came along. So it's got a flavor to it, right? It's got a nice botanical flavor. It's got rose hips and 34 other things. So this isn't our father's gin, right? This is now a class of gin. It's very refreshing.
It is refreshing, yes. Thirst quenching. I like the kick from the gin for sure. I actually happen to like gin. I'm not a big fan of tonic water, but tonic water goes so well with gin. So it makes for a really lovely drink. This is nice. It's very refreshing.
It's refreshing. It's light. And we should talk about this whole tonic water thing. This is a Fitch Leedes. There's other kind of bespoke. I mean, that's happened recently where everybody says, well, listen, this is so much of the drink. Let's improve. It's kind of like, when I go to restaurants and I see them put cheap bread on the table, those who put bread on the table still. And I'm like, why would you do that? You charge me $50 for a main, but you're putting like cheap bread up the scale up and, this kind of quality.
I know.
And it's probably a good opportunity for us to talk about all the things that are happening in the beverage category. I mean, when you and I were growing up.
Before you go, actually, I just want to also inform the listeners that there are other types. There's also grapefruit tonic, which I tried, which is actually not bad either. It's a very good, very good sparkling drink as well. And so there are a few flavors. So thank you very much for sending this along, by the way.
Yeah, thanks to Levenswater and Fitch Leedes, and we should remind the folks that we're under no obligation to do these reviews. People just send us the stuff, and we try it, and that's trying stuff.
That's right. Exactly.
We should probably talk about in this trying stuff segment what's going on in the beverage category. When you and I were growing up, we had a choice of Labatt Blue or 50, right? We didn't have much choice.
Room temperature,
and it often was in stubby little bottles and. There's so much choice today. I mean, I've just got a few bottles I just pulled. You've got your big category, your pre-prepared, ready-to-drink mixed drinks. This is a Negroni. You've got that. You've got bespoke, beers taking over. And you remember that these categories were seen as kind of also players. They weren't seen as big players, right? Yeah, no problem.
So is it my phone? Yeah, I'm just going to...
At arm's length. That's just the media again calling. It's the media calling. And then, of course, we should probably talk about this. Cannabis infused beverages.
Have you tried it?
Cannabis infused beverages, yeah. I've tried a few of them. It's hard to get a good taste. You got to have a good tasting beverage, right? I mean, that's where it's difficult. I know initially there's a lot of enthusiasm around cannabis beverages, but they're really netting out to be 4 or 5%. I mean, they're not as big as everyone hoped they would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're a slow growing category. In the cannabis sector, 50% is still dried flower, and the rest is all
Yep.
these different things. But as you sit back and look at it from your chair on the growth and the changes, it must be pretty interesting to watch this kind of explosion of choice, because it actually gets back to what we were talking about in the podcast. You've got so much choice, so many changes. The small players become big players become smaller players, and there's room for niches. Maybe it instructs us to the future of food in some small way. Yeah.
I think so. The beverage industry is really, really important in Canada, but it's a really competitive category. You're seeing some CPG companies dumping some brands, as PepsiCo did with Tropicana, for example. You're seeing some consolidation, but at the same time, you're also seeing new innovation. You just presented a few very, very interesting products, and there's going to be more of that happening. We just had the pleasure last week to be in Montreal at Cial, well,
Mm,
virtual Cial, and we were talking about food innovation for the entire morning. And the beverage industry is bound to do very well next few years because it's a category. It's portable. There are different flavors you can explore. There's always something
yeah.
new, whether it's cannabis or new ingredients you can actually incorporate, and it's a nice way to introduce new flavors. It's a very passive way to introduce new flavors in the marketplace in Canada.
And I guess the COVID era has been tough and kind at the same time, because I know for a lot of these bespoke liquors, like a gin, a lot of their business was in bars, and of course bars just went away for
Yep.
a year, so it was very tough days. Wine as well, but now the direct to consumer is picked up. You can buy both Levenswater and the tonic water online. They'll ship it to you directly.
Yep.
That's very, very new. That's very different. And I guess we should talk about the making at home, because again, similar to food, we never made in our house bespoke cocktails. We weren't really a cocktail family. We were beer and kind of wine. If we had a cocktail, we'd go out to a restaurant. Now we have, cocktails Friday night, and we never used to do that. And that's, I have to say, almost 100% because of COVID. And we decided to just try to create and make our own interesting cocktails, made easier when you've got some pre-mixes and
That's
some
right. Yeah,
different things, right?
the industry actually is again empowering consumers to do their own little things at home. What kind of cocktails do you prepare on Friday nights?
Well, I would take this gin, and I actually make a product. I was on air with Ben Mulrooney making it together, of all
That's
people,
right.
and I made the Last Request cocktail, named after my YouTube food channel. And we put in the same Levenswater, but then we added in Dutch hot peppers, peppercorns, and grapefruit. And it really
Mm.
is like a G&T on steroids, but it changes the flavor entirely. Let it sit for a while, and it's got it like it fires up the tongue and the lips. Just a delicious kind of cocktail, but all kinds of different beverages. And it used to be just a glass of scotch, right? You pour
Right.
spice, pour some scotch in.